Hello, my name is Cornball. I'm going to be talking about my defense mechanism, and it's repression. And before we talk about repression, I want to talk a little bit about personality. And basically, we're going to be defining personality as distinctive and encouraging characteristics and patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And psychologists usually study personality in two broad ways: by trying to understand difference in specific characteristics, and two, by looking at how all the various parts of each person mesh together as a whole. Basically, what are characteristics and how do they combine to make me, me, and you? And few believe that our personality are largely shaped by the enduring conflict between our impulses to do what we feel like and our restraint to control these urges, our superego. Between our pleasure-seeking aggressive urges and our inner social control over them. So basically, how he measured personality and what he thought is the inner conflict of sex, urges, id, and how we repress those feelings from coming to our conscious mind. But we're going to talk more about that. And while psychoanalysis was created by Freud back in 1896, psychoanalysis is plainly put a form of therapy that he popularized as treatment for mental health disorders. But more than that, many psychologists would agree that psychoanalysis marks the beginning of psychotherapy. And while it may be incredible, scientifically flawed, and unpopular today, is kind of a big deal. So let me give you the skinny on what is actually. Psychoanalysis theorizes that human personality can be divided into two parts: the conscious and the unconscious mind. On a daily basis, there are two parts are constantly in conflict, and the end mature human behavior is the compromise between these two. Psychoanalysis says that the mind is comprised of three parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. Psychoanalysis theory says that the conflict between the desire to ravage and social order results in the development of defense mechanisms to keep it from coming out, and those defense mechanisms keep us safe for the guilt and anxiety we would feel for if we ever gave into our inner desires. And basically that the id, ego, and superego. The id, few thought that the id was basically you got as a baby, is your urge to want to consume and to keep having it. And some examples was the oral phase where you're always consuming, and anal phase is whenever you went to go potty train. And the anal phase happened in the ego. The ego is what help you control those urges and how to satisfy those urges at a particular time. So basically saying that you learned how to manage, how to control those urges. And the superego is basically the moralization of the of value and ideas of internalizing basically he was the hero, superego, and telling you what is right and how to do it and that we shouldn't do something. So basically whenever you think of id, ego, and superego, id is the devil on the one side telling you that something that you should go do reckless and renegade stuff, and the superego is telling you that you should stay in school, you shouldn't drink, you shouldn't drive, and all that. And the ego is basically you trying to figure out which one, like trying to lawyer which one to do. And the iceberg mind is basically a fused thought of how the unconscious and conscious mind is. Basically, your unconscious mind is the top of the iceberg, and the bottom, your unconscious, is the big ice that's under it, that's hidden below the water of the surface. And Freud thought that through psychoanalysis that he can understand the unconscious mind. And basically, the conscious is what you see, and the unconscious is what you don't see, or there are the deepest urges and desires and stuff that you did not want to come out because of your ego and your superego that did not want it to come out. So basically, it was repression. This is basically a more understanding of what the conscious mind is and the unconscious mind. Because if we're talking about repression, you gotta know what the difference is. The conscious mind contains all the thoughts, memories, feelings, wishes of which we are aware at any given moment. So, right now, you're conscious and you are understanding what you have, and you can bring up memories like that. But the unconscious mind, psychoanalysis theory personalized the unconscious mind, reserving feeling, thoughts, and urges, memories that outside of the conscious awareness, most of the content is unconscious. So you wouldn't be able to grab it and use it. And mainly, these are all the repressed thoughts that create feelings of pain, anxiety, or some conflict. So anything that has to do with those three, they would get repressed into the unconscious mind. And what is repression? It is typically the psychoanalysis mechanism that invokes keeping certain thoughts, feelings, or urges out of conscious awareness. The goal of this form is to defend yourself from being constantly aware of feelings and stuff, so you don't have to be anxious, having anxiety, or know about past thoughts. So basically, repression is something happens to you and you don't know what happened. Types of repression. Through psychoanalysis, we go through the types of repression so we can deal with what happened with us, so we can have a more understanding and a more mature defense mechanism to deal with those problems. And the types of repression will help. So hiding and wanting to material. So primary repression is the hiding an unwanted material before it ever reaches consciousness. So this is the beginning of repression. Whenever primary repression is hiding it from the unconscious, and repression proper is the psychoanalysis or some type of therapy trying to go through those past memories to recover and to bring it to your conscious mind so you can deal with it in a mature manner and so forth, so it doesn't cause you any more pain, because you can still repress the memories, but they can still affect you in your health, everyday life. For example, if your mother was cold to you and you didn't get showed much love, you wouldn't know what love was, and you would repress those feelings of love toward another person because those cold feelings. Or, yeah. And while we're talking about repression, we also need to talk about suppression, because suppression is the consciously trying to put those feelings into your unconscious, but you're still conscious of those memories. For example, like the anger. If you have repressed and unconsciously deny impulses like anger, if you deny them, then you're gonna put on a cheerful face. But if your suppression, if it's suppression, you're constantly trying to put those memories down. Examples is slips of tongue. Basically, slips of tongue is whenever you're writing or something and you meant to put though, but you put thigh. Through feud, that means you have sexual urges that you want to have but you can't have. Obvious complex. During future stages of sexual development, he suggests that children go through a process during a genital stage, mainly as a child, like at around the age of 5 or so, where they internally view their same-sex partners as rivals and the opposite-sex partners' affections. In order to resolve this conflict, they repress their feelings of aggression toward the same sex and all that. Also, another example is phobias. You might be scared of spiders and you don't know what the initial memory of the spider that gave you the fear was. And another example of repression is Dexter, if you ever watched the show. I like the show personally. Dexter shows repression and how he has a dark past and makes him do things that he does, like kill people. But those repressed memories make him do what he does, seeing his mother die. But he did not know that until they came subconsciously to him through going back through the past and going to psychology and figuring out why he had these feelings and why he had the urge to kill. Psychopathology gets the study of the mental disorders. So basically, all mental disorders revolve around repression and narcissists. I basically want to talk about this is because you're going to hear this phrase a lot, and it's basically narcissistic is depression, anxiety over behavior, and Hypnosis. This is another type of therapy that can help you with your subconscious. Whenever we usually think about therapy, hypnotherapy, we think about Yoda, a clock, or Lucifer that looks at you and you tell him your deepest, darkest secrets. Basically, that's what hypnosis is trying to, hypnotherapy is trying to make you understand and feel good about those repressed memories. Or hypnosis can be used to repress memories that you don't want to have any more memory of. But basically, this is hard to work, and the reason is because if you have schizophrenia, bipolar disease, or borderline disorder, none of these therapies will actually work for you, because you're if you get hypnotized, you're with bipolar disorder, you're not really going to be thinking about it, because hypnotherapy is a willingness to give in. You have to be voluntarily hypnotized. That's how hypnotism works. And that's basically it. Thank you. Bye.